Hello, my friends, Jessie here, coming to you from one of our favorite places, only second to our home. Speaking of our home, we've got some really big changes taking place. These bookshelves, which I am sure you have seen in the background of my videos, well, they're coming down. In lieu of all the changes, I thought it only appropriate to also change out all the decor as well. That said, you and I are going on a field trip antiquing. But before you don your shopping shoes, let's rewind it back a few days and get some prep work done first. So in case you're wondering, I designed and we did build this house. Consequently, I did design these bookshelves as well. Fact of the matter is, my design style is forever changing, and for me, boredom has a tendency to sink in. We've lived in this home for about 4 years, and believe it or not, that is by a long stretch the longest we've ever lived in a home. With my love of change and Blake's willingness to flip a profit, our family has been on the move since its inception. From modern farmhouse to cottage chic, our family has lived in the mall. The only thing that any of them had in common is that they were constantly being redecorated. No mornings are quite as peaceful as the ones we wake up here. Whether it's our lack of animal chores or our empty to-do lists, not many things compare. When our schedules are filled to the brim and it feels like there's no end in sight, it is these very times that I long for most. And since this place has been designated a fun-only zone, we are going to keep it as such. The work may be waiting for us back home, but my friends, it's all play here. If you don't mind, we'll hold our horses just a bit, and before we get ready to do just that, let's cue up a little cozy cabin montage. Okay, hopefully you're still awake and that didn't put you to sleep. So while we're heading off for a walk, let's talk about some of the things that I'm looking for before heading off antiquing. I very rarely go into it with a rigid plan, as you can never predict what exactly you're going to find. I will say what I love to find and what I am looking for is really tried and true pieces, the ones that will stay around from season to season and will stand the test of time. These are items with a more neutral color palette, maybe wood candlesticks or some sort of bowl or any kind of antique pot. I'm not necessarily going into the process looking for any type of trendy pieces that may be more colorful. Those things I either like to make or spend a little less money on. Now, I don't know the exact pieces that I will necessarily find or exactly what I'm looking for, but I do have in mind the type of overall feel that I'm wanting the cabinetry to exude. The current built-ins that we have now are a little bit more formal than my style is. I'm really trying to go for a laid back, more casual, lived in type of feel. With all that in mind, let's go antiquing. Every time I go through the footage of our shopping sprees, I find pieces that I missed and really wish that I grabbed them. That Mustang pair definitely goes on that list. I will say, even though I go in for one category, I do keep my eyes open for others. I am such a lover of anything brass, especially if it has patina. So when I come across anything of that nature, it's hard for me to pass it up. The fact that it's very transitional and can be used from season to season makes it all the more attractive. I also keep my eyes peeled for anything that can be used as a pot for plants. Moody original paintings are also super hard to pass up, especially when the color schemes fall within particular seasons. Speaking of seasons, vintage seasonal items can be hard to find, so whenever you come across them and you happen to like them, I'd go ahead and grab them. Antique and vintage books are a perfect way to add color, height, or depth to any type of shelving or display. Sometimes you can find those at a really good price, and when you do, I'd recommend you nabbing them up. So we have officially returned home, and watching my own video montage of our shopping trip, I now have a few things that I'd like to run back and grab. But before we do that, and before I show you a sneak peek at some of our favorite finds, let's take a look at where we're at as far as our built-ins go. After I took out each individual shelf, it was then time to remove the entire unit. While I was involved in some of this process to make sure we kept the drywall that was behind the unit in the best condition possible, I called on the help of some of our favorite handymen. If you're like me and projects are forever ongoing throughout the house, finding a crew you can trust when backup is needed is worth its weight in gold. This fall, we're actually going to build a gaming and bunk cabin for our family and our kiddos' friends, and this is the crew that we are going to be using in order to build it. So as it was being torn down, we were quite excited that the drywall was still intact and in pretty good condition, so that didn't have to be added back in. I wanted to make sure that these shelves would stand the test of time, so braces were attached to the studs and were then put behind the drywall. When really drawing out the plans in my mind as to what this new shelving system would look like, I wanted it to look as if it were recessed back into the wall, and for the drywall to somewhat act as a frame around the shelves. After the shelves were in place, I realized I wanted them to look a little bit more substantial, so a nailer was put in front of them. And these two units are flanking our fireplace and the 1800s barn beam mantle. To make the freshly cut nailers blend in, I decided to round out the corners so that it would more seamlessly coincide with the mantle and our ceiling beams. If you've got a brand new piece of wood and you're wanting it to look a little bit more weathered, the easiest and fastest thing you can do is mimic what time does and round the edges. I initially started this with my electric sander, but found that it was really eating into it too quickly. So I found that I could control more so the shape of it if I did it by hand. With just a little elbow grease, the boards now blend seamlessly with the worn mantle and the ceiling beams. They are, however, quite a bit lighter than I'd prefer, but cedar does darken over time, so I'm gonna let nature do its thing. So we've still got a few steps to go, but in the meantime, let's get back to that antiquing trip and let me show you a few of the treasures that I found along the way. So not at all relative to the bookshelves, I found this plant stand for $36. The condition, color, and shape were just too good for me to pass. So I'm not exactly sure what this next piece is or what it was used for. If you happen to know, I would love to hear all about it. We frequent our local antique shop so often that I have gotten to know the owner. So whenever I purchase something from there, I always make sure to ask where it was from, maybe who owned it previously, and what it was used for. Knowing the background of each of the items in your home just makes them that much more special. So this next one may not go on the bookshelf right now, but you will definitely see it in the near future. I will be using this in the fall. It's very congruent with all the colors that I normally use. The deep blacks, warm yellows, and rust will be perfect for my autumn decor. Next is just a regular paper mache bowl. I just picked it up because it was a really good price and it's a very good space filler. We do happen to have quite an expansive area to cover, and anything that is affordable and takes up room is a good find in my book. Next, I love any lidded pots, especially those that are clay and black. And then I've got a stone bowl here. I love bringing in natural elements. Speaking of natural elements, I could not pass on this huge shell. I loved all the gradation of the tones, its shape, and once again, it's large. Speaking of large, I've got what I believe to be an antique bean pot. Once again, those muted colors got me. It was a little bit more expensive, but this is something that will be around for a really long time. So items like that, I'm okay with paying a little extra. All right, so those are the items that we've picked up for our newest project that we've got going on currently. The shelves literally just got finished, and the house and every item that is within it received a deep cleaning, and I am going to be getting off of here to style those shelves. This is something that I have absolutely been chomping at the bit to get to, so you can guess what our next video will be about. This video being a little different, I'd love to hear what you thought about it. I'm all about changing things up and bringing new and creative content to you. If you enjoyed it, I'd love for you to give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button and the notification as well if you don't want to miss any of our future content. I'd love to hear about any pieces you may have seen while we were on our antique shopping trip and pieces you would have maybe picked up yourself. And as always, any questions or suggestions are welcomed. Forgive me for being a little late on this video. This house has been extremely loud this past week and recording nearly impossible. Last but not least, I definitely appreciate you joining me, and I can't wait to see you on our next adventure. Until next time, friends, we'll see you soon.